Okay, season's greetings. KK4PYN back again with you here. And this is my review of Andy's Ham Radio Linux. This will actually be take two for me. I had a great video before with the audio, just not doing it. So, get a couple housekeeping things out of the way. This is going to be a long video. The last one was an hour. I'm going to try and knock this one down from that. There's a lot. This is a lot to look at, and this is going to be a complete and comprehensive review. If you want the TLDR, if you want the short version, I've got another video that I made that kind of shows me just messing around with it in a virtual machine. It goes through what's in there and what's available. In this video, we're actually going to go and open some stuff up and do some SDR and just kind of look at it. So I'm going to put the meat and potatoes part of it up front, so if you don't feel like watching the whole thing, I understand. And just kind of give you a general quick synopsis of what you get here. I am recording this in hardware on a standalone machine, and I will be honest with you, I'm having some glitches with audio, so just kind of bear with me here. And also, I'm fighting some sort of throat bug. So you're going to hear, unfortunately, a lot of coughing and probably me drinking some water. So, with that being said, this is Andy's Ham Radio Linux version 21. I used version 17 and did a video of that before, and it was fantastic back then. I can tell you it's better now. This software is just... Let's break it down into a couple categories. As far as Linux goes, if you're already a Linux user, this is a great addition to your distro collection, I guess if you want to call it that. You could run this either from a live USB stick or in a virtual machine, and the advantage is that all of the ham radio packages are pre-built for you. There's no compiling from source, there's no hours of command line, stuff like that. If you're already a Linux user, this is just a good pre-made package that has everything you need. Okay, you can see, hopefully, the puppy's walking around here, it doesn't unplug my microphone. You can see down here it's got a lot of built-in stuff already for ham radio, and we're going to go over that here in a minute. If you're not a Linux user, and you wanted to try Linux out, I would start with, say, regular Ubuntu, simply because things are different and easier to install and stuff like that. Granted, with this distribution, you really don't need to install anything to be up and running. As software that runs on a computer in your ham shack or whatever, it does everything it needs to do. Okay. They're coming from Windows, and just say you're having problems getting SDR up and running or some of the other software that's available. This is just a great, it works distribution. It's pre-built, it works, everything's here, you're done. Okay, so with that being said, let me show you what it is. This is a SourceForge page. This is based on Ubuntu 16.04.3. and it works flawlessly. It's very stable. This software will run on older hardware. The desktop environment, I believe, is XFCE or something like that, and it's very lightweight. Everything's very lightweight. This built-in web browser that we're looking at right now is called Midori. It's very lightweight and very stable. It works good. YouTube works in it. I haven't had a problem with anything really. It's a modern web browser. It's lightweight. It doesn't use a lot of system resources. You can see down here, excuse me, on our taskbar, we've got all your basic stuff, clock. This is a CPU lib monitor, which is great. It shows you how much you're working. This is not a super fast machine, but it's not a slouch either. It's enough to run the SDR stuff. And you can see that the screen recorder is taking up a little bit of horsepower here. And you got your memory, and I believe this is network monitor. Don't quote me. This red dot is just for Voco screen, and this shows you are connected to a wired internet. Then you got different windows you can switch between. So if you wanted to open up a bunch of different programs on different windows, I probably could do that, but it's called Workspaces. It works good. Here's your web browser. Here's your terminal. Terminal works good. There's also a large font terminal in there for people like me who doesn't have as good of eyesight. My grammar, who don't have as good of eyesight. And your show desktop button there. Here's all of your, even if you are coming from Windows, things are going to kind of be familiar, Let's try hitting the Windows key. Unfortunately, my computer still has a Windows key. Brings up your menu here, and everything you need in here is already done. Okay. This does have Firefox on it, which is a little bit faster, better browser. Okay, I don't want to use the word better. It's a more supported, more whatever. It's different. It's a browser. Everybody's familiar with Firefox. I don't remember if that shipped with this version or if I put it in there. Don't know. Anyway, I don't think I would have installed Firefox, so I guess it ships with it. And we're going to have some dogs barking here. Apologize for that. They're kind of protective. Anytime there's somebody walking by on the front sidewalk or anything like that. But that's okay. That's annoying. Let's see, shush. Anyway, that's why we have dogs. Yeah, I'm just looking at all my cameras. So yeah, I believe that ships with it. 32 and 64 gig. 64 gig. Bleh. 32 and 64-bit versions available. Here's your recommended hardware. 1 gig CPU, 1 gig of memory, 10 to 15 gigs of disk. And what he's saying here is that if you want to run SDR, you might want something a little bit better. SDR processing takes up, as you'll see here in a bit, quite a bit of horsepower. So, anyway, moving along, just download whatever version you want. You can use a program like Unetbootin, and Unetbootin will put everything on a USB stick if you don't want to burn it to a CD, or, well, you need a DVD. It's a 2.1 gigabyte file, so you'll want at least a 4 gig USB stick. You can run live from a USB. It works just fine. If you're going to get into the SDR stuff, I mean, I guess it should work just fine. Or, like I said, you can run it in VirtualBox. But I just downloaded an extra computer that I had. This is an Inspiron 660. It's not too fancy. It's got Centrino or Celeron. I think it's a Celeron. Anyway, it's a couple years old, but it still works fine. So, just, download whatever version you want, 32 or 64. I'm going to try putting an older version on a netbook that I have. Obviously, it's not going to be enough to run the SDR applications as much, but IceWM, that's what it's called. The window manager is called IceWM. I don't know why I said XFC. Anyway, it's very lightweight and it works very well, and I enjoy using it. So let's get into this. We're going to close out of Midori here. You can change this background and the look and feel and do all sorts of different stuff, but let me give you the short kind of version here, so if you don't want to stick with me for a big long video, everything's pre-built and it works. You've got a lot of good software in here, a lot of digital modes, electronic design, your Smith charts, propagation. There's a solar data you can pop up that were kind of cool. Logging programs, CQRlog and Xlog are pretty popular. So if you're into contesting, stuff like that. Rig control. We've got Chirp included, which is a great software for programming your handhelds or radios, getting all your memories and frequencies in there. FLRig. I've had a little bit of an issue with FLRig. I think it's the adapter I have with my Fft 57, but I'll get into this program here in a bit. OWX, I believe, is for Woxon. Well, HTs to program them. You got some satellite software in here. GPredict is the one I use the most to see when the ISS is coming over, so I can go outside with my handheld and can listen to that. And then you got some other telemetry, handfax, stuff like that. And then your SDR ones. Dream is a DRM decoder. I don't know that much about it. I know over in Europe it probably works better where they have DRM on dial or whatever you call it. Good Radio Companion, I'll get into. That's a hour video itself. We've got built-in examples, which is fantastic, and then GQRX and Quisk. Quisk is a software SDR program, sound card SDR program. I think it'll do some other stuff. And GQRX is the main one we're going to be looking at in the last half of the video because it is fantastic. So, you've got all this stuff built in, okay? Ready to go, out of the box, no configuring, it all just works. If you're going to do SDR, I'm using a Nuelec SDR. It's one of the little bit fancier ones. It's got a better TXCO and stuff like that. Here's the difference between trying to do SDR in Windows and trying to do SDR in Linux. SDR in Windows, I've used SDR Sharp. You've seen some of my videos before. It works great, but it can be a pain in the butt because of drivers. You've got to download Zadig and use Zadig, which, again, it works, but if you just really want a plug-and-play thing, I just plugged in my SDR dongle and it just worked. No driver configuration necessary. Okay, so a few of the nuances about the software, about this distribution of Linux, that you'll notice that down here there's no volume control or anything. Most of the programs you're going to be using are going to have a built-in volume control. Like, for instance, I downloaded VLC just to kind of play back these videos and see what they look like. And VLC works great. It's got its own volume control, the software-defined radio, that stuff. Anyway, if you want volume control, there's sound right here. You want to use PAV volume control. That's pulse audio volume control right there. This will give you all of your volume controls and levels, as you can see now. I hope I'm not overdriving this. Yes, probably. Yeah, and then your output devices, so you get everything you need right there. I'm going to back my microphone up away from my mouth a little bit in case I'm giving you guys pops and crackles there. Like I said, I'm having some issues with audio. I believe it is hardware based. It doesn't have anything to do with this particular software. So, but that's sound. For shutdown, you'll also notice here you got a log out, but for shutdown you just go into System, and then you got everything you need down here. Shutdown, reboot. Your system monitor will show you all sorts of different stuff. Here's keyboard, blah blah blah. If you are running on a live disk, this is where you would click Install to hard drive, and it would install it to your system. So works good. Here's your package manager. This right here, enter your password to perform administrative tasks, is one of the greatest things about Linux. Is entering a password every time you want to do something annoying. That depends. Do you like viruses? The good thing about Linux is that even if somebody kind of got in there or whatever, maybe, if they don't have your password, this is an extra layer of, like, you're not just going to click on something, you're about to install something. And Windows just kind of auto installs all sorts of bloatware, malware, adware. So this is going to update real quick, and then all your packages are going to come up. This is an easy way to install software. Excuse me. You can search for stuff here if you wanted to install it. If you're not a Linux kung fu guy, if you're not good at Linux, or if you're not familiar with Linux, definitely do your research before you start installing stuff, because even just something simple. If we want to install Google Chrome, there's a very specific reason I said Chrome, because I'm going to have another video coming out soon. It may be my after Christmas video about ham radio on Chrome OS. Not just the browser, but actual Chromebooks or the Chrome box, which I'll show you. So there's a lot of different options here. So if you don't know what you're doing, definitely do your research. on using this, and there's some built-in documentation too, okay, on how to use this stuff. So, but it does everything you need. So that's in there, and then in the utilities section, you got clock, any kind of email. Your file manager is where you're going to find all of your stuff here. Here's all the videos I've been recording, trying to get this working. So that's your, basically, if you are familiar with like Ubuntu, that's your home folder where you find all your files. Hey, you got a text editor, you got all that stuff. So ready to go. Here's all your other stuff, all of your applications. The one thing missing from here, and I talked to Andy about this, is Arduino. We're going to try and install that here in a minute just for the heck of it. Because a lot of ham radio guys are using Arduino now. I have not tried to install Wine on here either. I'm trying to stay away from Wine. Wine being the Windows program launcher for Linux. I don't drink anyway. But this will do everything you need ham radio wise. Okay, so it's a full-featured, ready-to-go distribution. And let me say something for those of you who are going to bug out early. If you wanted to quit now, I wouldn't blame you. Like I said, this is going to be a long video. Andy is a ham, KB10IQ. He's a real, honest to goodness ham, and he made this software for those of us who either A, just want something that's already built, or B, just want a simple distro to kind of use. You could dual boot this with Windows and have a fantastic machine, or put it on an old laptop. Doesn't need a lot. You can see this is not a fancy machine I'm running on now. There are other Linux distributions that are targeted for ham radio. I've used some. I like this one the best. I'm not going to trash anybody else, or this works. It works well, and there's support for it. Andy himself will support this software if you have a question. All your general stuff is here. I have not had many problems. Let me get a drink here. Yeah, I apologize. I got some sort of, I don't know what's going on. I might be getting sick or something, but anyway, you can get support. There's a wiki here, and if you need help, you're gonna get it, okay. All the videos I made, the last video I made was Andy's version 17, I believe, and he actually commented on the video, and we started talking over email. When I did the last video, which I showed you this stuff running in VirtualBox, we talked again. He made some corrections because I am not the Linux Kung Fu guy yet. I use Linux as my daily, but I am not by any means an advanced Linux user. I can get around. I can do what I need to do. Everything else, use your favorite search engine. So, but if I needed help, I know that I could go to, in here and get it. Okay, there's support. Here's all your files. Version 17 was the one I did. You can see that came out in 2017. So he keeps updating it. There's some README stuff. Getting started. So easy to get running. Just use Unetbootin. You can use Unetbootin on Linux or Windows or Mac. And I just forget about the Mac, guys. And I just can't afford it. And get this running on your system. So I just downloaded it to USB stick. Put it in there. Boom. Up and running. Okay. So let me check my time here. Alright, so yeah, we're at 20 minutes. Which is fine. So yeah, if you want to bug out, thanks for watching. The rest of this, we're going to be looking at opening up some of these programs and using them in depth. And so my closing words for those of you leaving now: do it. Just download it. It's free. Try it out, play around with it, ask questions. You know, if you're running into issues, but if you just got an SDR stick, an RTL SDR, or any other one, I guess, an AirSpy or something like that, and you're struggling with software, just download this, install it, and it works out of the box. So, this is super legit, and I enjoy using it, and you will too. If you have any questions, ask down in the comments. I'd be happy to help you out, but there's plenty of other places to get support as well. So, okay, now for the rest of you hardcore followers, all 6 of you, we're going to dive deep in here and get into some of these other programs. So, the first thing I want to look at, we were going to try and install Arduino. So let's try and do it from the web. And we're doing this live so you can see what's going on. I like the little finger. Okay. Again, alright. What's going on here? I'll tell you what. Well, we're going to stick with this. No, because it's not showing up. Okay. So that's the difference between a non-everyday browser and an everyday browser, I think. Because if we open this up in Firefox, Firefox runs great on this distro. We're doing this live, so if you know, whatever happens, happens. That looks a little bit better. Yeah. Okay. Where's my download? Why does it seem like I'm on a mobile? Okay. Anyway, let's get the latest version. 1.85 Linux 64-bit. And something's happening. Don't worry. Just download. Okay, so I believe we should be able to handle the tarball here. Make sure you guys donate to Arduino. I'm an Arduino fanatic. I've got other development platforms. I've got a TI Launchpad, and I've used PIC and all that, and I enjoy them. They work, but I believe that Arduino, well, it's got a very large community, like so does Launchpad, but I don't know. The IDE, for me, I'm not a programmer. I'm a hardware guy, so being able to go into, you know, into the playground and opening archive, and get pre-built software examples and scripts and sketches and stuff like that. You can do that with the rest of them, but even just writing my own or modifying sketch, Arduino for me is the way to go. Now, I will say that I have had success with not remembering my Linux right now. Sorry. I believe we need to do the install sh. I'm not familiar with this file system yet. What was I saying? Oh, Energia. Energia for the MFP430 uses the Arduino IDE setup with wiring and stuff like that to program other microcontrollers. Works good too. Okay, see. No. Yeah, I need to extract everything first. Let's do that. You missed. Yep. I'm just not going to lie to you. Whoa. Okay. I don't know what I'm doing there. Maybe because I'm scatterbrained. One of you guys can probably tell me what to do. Okay, let's try this. This is... It's always been my favorite way of installing software. Yeah, okay, so... and this is one of those Linux things. This is saying we need to get added to the dialog group in order for serial to work. Error. Don't ask me why. Okay. So there we go. Arduino. Wow. New one. Is up and running. I don't have an Arduino plugged in right now, so we're not going to mess with it. But there you go. Arduino's installed. I think I need to change my dialog group so I can use serial, but the question is, where does it show up in here? I just don't think it does. Never mind, it does. It shows up under electronics because that's how it's categorized. So there we go. Arduino handled. Let's try this again. So it's going to keep bothering me about getting added to the dialog group. Okay, maybe it worked that time. Anyway, there you go. Arduino up and running. I'm going to have a video coming up here shortly when my parts come in from China on building a Arduino-based display for the Fft 57. And that'll be fantastic. So, that's task 1 out of the way. We've got Arduino installed. Now it feels like home. Arduino. The second thing that we wanted to do... did it pop up in here? No. It would be nice if it was in here, I guess. Although it's really not. It's programming. So it popped up in the right place in our electronics. We're going to go into rig control. Chirp, as I mentioned before, has never really been hard to install or anything like that, but it's nice to be here because now you can program all your radios, all your HTs, excuse me, stuff like that. I'm getting sick. That's the bottom line to it. My wife was sick last week. I think I'm sick now. Anyway, the show must go on. So yeah, you can program all your radios. I have successfully used this for my Baofungs and for my ICOM, and I believe for some of my Radio Shack scanners. Don't quote me on Radio Shack scanner part. So that works, and let's go back in here again. One of the other things I wanted to look at was FLRig. I am going to make another adapter for my Fft 57. Right now I'm using a British-built, I forget what it's called, Digital Master or something like that. This takes a second to come up. I don't know why. There it is. And it's not playing right. I don't know why. It works with HRD, Ham Radio Deluxe. And it works with Fft 57 Cat Commander, or Cat Controller, whatever you want to call it, but I just haven't got it working on this particular software. So, if you've used FLRig before, and that, I believe the problem is that that particular interface has two virtual COM ports, two USB interfaces, and it confuses it. So when I go in and try and set it up, I just can't get, no matter what serial port I use, it's not plugged in right now, it just doesn't work. So the software seems great, like I totally love it. Seems to do everything I need to do. It's got, you know, every option under the sun. I just can't get it working. So I don't know what I'm doing wrong. A little bit of Googling might help that, but this, anyway, let me go back in here. This software, if you have a cat controlled rig, excuse me, Goodness. Oh. You can see the list of installed right here. It should work right out of the box. It says in the software that when you select something, it automatically sets up the defaults or the presets. So this is a very simple interface. It's very clean. There's a couple different layouts you can use, but I really like this. I can't wait to get it working. And we'll play with that in another video. So that's that. It takes a while to start up and it takes a while to shut down. I don't know why. Hit close once. Just gonna sit here for a minute. And during this intermission, I'd like to. There you go. I don't know why it takes so long. Don't ask me, but it does seem to work. So I've not been able to get that running. Yeah, nice thing here. Beacons DX cluster. There's some nice solar data. Gives you all your band conditions, solar activity. Works good. This is designed by Ham for hams. So the software that's included with this distribution is everything you could possibly need to do almost anything in ham radio that requires a computer. There's CW software. Now, if you're a ham radio purist and you're going to yell at me about using a keyboard program for CW or digital modes or anything like that, I understand that. But there's a lot of young guys getting into ham radio these days, and they want to do digital stuff. It's the digital age, and if that attracts youngsters to ham radio, then hey, the more the merrier. You're all welcome in. Excuse me. And this is an easy way to get it set up without having to install a bunch of stuff or clog up your system. Here's the other thing about Linux. Linux software comes from a couple different places. It relies on dependencies and having stuff in the right repository and stuff like that. And when you start installing a lot of software, getting into different versions, it can really clog up your distro. I've broken Ubuntu before installing software because of dependencies, and then I can break just about anything, I guess, but excuse me, goodness gracious, holy cow. So this is done. There's no there's no break in this. It all works, and he comes up with updates. So there you go. You do a sudo apt-get update every once in a while, keep everything fresh, and you're ready to go. All right, moving down here. Let's go ahead and get right into some SDR stuff. This is the easy way to do software-defined radio. If you bought a $20 RTL stick and you're struggling to get the software working, this will fix that. Because it just works, you don't need any drivers, you don't need to configure DIG, you don't need to drop DLLs into any files or anything like that. I had a chore getting everything working on Windows, and I don't know. Not a fan of Windows anyway, so I understand it's what most people use, but with this you can have your cake and eat it too. Have your cake and eat it too. My grammar sometimes, guys, I tell you what. Because you could either run this from a live CD or in VirtualBox or dual boot it on a Windows machine, and you don't really need too much. Don't need to give it too much hard drive space, because it's not like you're going to be downloading music files and stuff like that. Give it 20 gigs out of your 500 gig hard drive or something like that. It'll be just fine. I'm gonna drink quick here. Oh man, I tell you what. This is a marathon. Where are we at? 35 minutes. Okay. We're doing good. I don't want to go over an hour. I doubt anybody will sit here for an hour and watch the whole thing. But if you want to see the SDR part, here we go. So we're going to get back in here. Amateur radio, SDR. Okay. what we got? Dream. Like I said, that's a digital radio dial decoder thing. I don't know anything about it. Just read a quick blurb. GNU Radio Companion. I call it GNU. It's GNU. As you can see here, we're using some horsepower. This is why they say, if you're going to do the SDR stuff, get yourself a decently fast machine. You know, you got a 2 gig or something like that, you should be fine. This is 1.8. GNU Radio Companion is a GUI for GNU Radio. With this and the right hardware, or even without the right hardware, you can do amazing things with radio and RF. Look at other YouTube videos. I'm going to play with this now because actually through making this last video, I discovered something very exciting, and I would personally like to thank Andy for doing this, that all the examples are in here. So I'm going to do some, I've tried before, I didn't really get as far as I wanted to, but I'm going to try making some stuff and getting some basic stuff working. That's going to be another long video, probably after the new year. But basically what we've got here is you're going to build stuff, software blocks, connect it together, and it's basically leveraging the DSP capability of your processor to do things that you would typically do in a radio or a piece of RF gear. It's doing it with software. Okay. You can see the list of stuff going on here. Let me see if I can drag this out so you can kind of... these are all the available syncs. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because it just, you know, but basically, here you go, okay? You can do all this stuff in software. So, compiling that and getting it working, this is what GQRX, which is my favorite app, runs on top of, is GNU Radio Companion. It's GUI for that. Basically, it puts together the right blocks that you need to use your software-defined radio and get it outputting to your ears. So it takes care of all that, which is nice. Here's all your examples. Fantastic. Thank you. Compiling this whole list of examples can be a chore, but there they are. So again, thank you. Those are pre-built setups that you can go in and experiment with. There's days worth of work there. That's like Minecraft for radio people. You know, it just, there's so much you can build in that software. It's unbelievable. Okay, Quisk, I'm not going to open up because I got a microphone plugged in. It's a sound card software-defined radio program. If I open it up right now, it's going to squeak horribly, and all of you are going to get your eardrums blown out, and nobody wants that. But here's the star of the show, for me at least, is GQRX. I've used this on all my other hardware distros, and it's fantastic. So, latest version, okay. Since I've already started this up, there's a few things that are going to be different. When you first start this up, you're going to get... Oh, no, not that one. You're going to get this window pop up right here that says Configure Input Devices, and you open the drop down or drop up for what hardware you have plugged in. This is the Pluto SDR that I talked about earlier. I can't wait to get one of those. If you guys send me an early Christmas present, send me a Pluto SDR. Anyway, so you can also do over the network if you want RF space. I believe it supports others. I'm not going to get into it, but here's my dongle that I have plugged in, the RTL2838, and we're going to select that. Leave this stuff alone for right now. Click OK, and it'll pop up to this GUI here. And what are we going to do? We're going to hit this button, which starts DSP. If you leave your mouse on something, it shows you what it is, which I think should be law for every single piece of hardware to show you. Especially, this isn't even as much, but there's some software out there, I don't know why I said hardware, that just has so many options, and I don't know what they are. This is nice. So anyway, we're going to start here. And we're going to start off with the first thing I want to do. Here's the general tour. Let me shut this down for a second. Here's the general tour. You got your pan adapter, your waterfall, there's all your options up here. Okay, you can record, you can do network, you can do remote, full screen here. Anyway, these are your receiver options. So this is the frequency you're on, your filter type, shape. Here's your modes. Amplitude modulation, narrow FM, which would be ham band, FM, weather band, etc. Wide FM stereo for broadcast, lower sideband, upper sideband, CW, and this one, which, well, don't ask me. And you got your squelch, your automatic gain control settings there. A couple noise blanking options. When you're running audio, you'll see audio in here. This is your audio gain control right here. You can record if you want. Your input control, this is where you get a lot of control. Here's your LNA gain. You can also select hardware AGC if your hardware supports that. I believe the 2832 does. I haven't tried it. Clicking this box, DC remove, gets rid of the little bias you sometimes get there. But the thing that everybody will pretty much need to worry about if you're using one of the $20 USB sticks is this right here. Frequency correction. As you can see right now, I got it set to 55 parts per million. And I'm going to set it back down to 0 for a very specific reason. Oh, doesn't want to do that. I'll show you why. Come on. Okay, so this is how it'll be out of the box. Okay, I'm going to show you why in a second. Your receiver options we just went through, and then your Fft settings. This is where you can customize it when it ships. This is set to white. Let me start that. We got a signal here. I prefer green. Don't ask me why. Maybe it reminds me of an old oscilloscope or something. Depending on what you're doing, you can change the size over here. I've got to play with this. If you can see this black box that I'm dragging around with my cursor, it's got date time in it and the exact down to the point something something kilohertz that we're tuned to. I don't know why it's not showing up right. I'm sure it's something I can change here. Anyway, you're going to want to change this size, okay? So right now we're zoomed all the way out in frequency zoom, okay? And that's showing us, we're looking at 154 and a half-ish, probably 150, what is this down here? 154.2 down here somewhere up to almost 156. So that's a nice wide spectrum, chunk of spectrum, okay? Alexa's in there talking to me. This is how you tune right here. You can use your up and down arrows on your keyboard. I prefer just using the mouse scroller. So right now we're in the 2 meter band. Looking at, let me get down here a little bit. So here's 2 meters. We'll want to make sure we go back in here, and we're on that. Okay. So this is what I want to look at differently here. I want right now more pan adapter than I do waterfall, because with 2 meter stuff I'm not worried so much about finding the signals. Okay, so that makes this screen bigger so you can see more of a signal. Okay, like these little signals down here, I have no idea what they are. It's not enough to break squelch, whatever it is. But we can zoom in on that. We can zoom in on that and see what's going on. There's another good way to tune just within your thing here. Excuse me, goodness gracious. But this is all configurable with these sliders. You can do peak, detect, and hold. That'll show you all that. You can change your averaging. All these, if you're familiar with any software-defined radio hardware, you'll notice these settings are pretty familiar to you. So, but we're going to move that down there. Move that back over. That's what we're looking at. Now you can close this whole menu so you can fill up the entire screen if you're really hunting for some signals. But we're going to leave that alone for a second. And the first thing we're going to do, let's start at the bottom. This stick tunes 25 and up. So here we go at 29 megahertz. What do we got here? Don't know. But what we're going to do is we're going to auto set the squelch. As you can see that the noise floor here is not -55. So we're going to hit the A button here, which sets squelch to current signal or noise level. Automatic. Great. Okay, so that's not coming out over the squelch. Don't know what it is. But this looks familiar to me. Right here. 31 megahertz, 31.5. What's there? We're looking at. This is bleed over from an FM station. So, if you're planning on using a cheap RTL stick, think about buying an RF trap, FM band trap. Filtering before the stick is going to help you out a lot. Band pass filters or low pass filters, high pass filters, or band trap will help get rid of this. I have listened to 10 meters and 11 meters on these sticks without using the up converter. With the up converter, the software will go all the way down to DC. That's another video because this is not really an SDR video. It's just showing you how to use the software. Anyway, that'll get rid of this. I've tried it. I've got some old cheap one that I bought from Radio Shack a long time ago, and it works. It knocks the signal down. The other thing you can do to get rid of this is drop that gain down. It's still going to be there. Is it overloading the front end of this little thing? Maybe. Who knows? But that's a strong local station, and it stinks. So you can get rid of that with filters. So let's tune up here in the bands. You know what? Let's be adventurous. Let's go all the way up into the FM band here. Okay. This is what the FM band looks like in the real world. Make sure we're on, yep, stereo. And if we click here, you can hear we've got FM stations. Okay. So you got all your FM stations here, and you can tune in and do whatever you want. Now you'll notice, let me get out of there. Sorry about that. You'll notice down here that this is just a hot mess. Okay, that's because our gain is just too high. We don't need. I'm running a disc cone outside. It's very wide band. It's up in the air, 15 or 20 feet. Drop that gain down. Okay, that brings the noise floor down. And you see we get, this is what you want. You want this nice blue, uncluttered color. See the difference between there and there? So you can see your signals. These are the carrier sidebands of that weird FM thing I got going on. This will also decode RDS. So if we get onto a station with RDS, it should decode RDS. I don't think 105.9 has it. Let me get on to 98.9 here. I don't want to get into any rebroadcast trouble here, so I'm not going to really do much. I know this channel has RDS broadcast. Oh, duh. Here you go. Down here in the corner, so enable RDS. It's selected there, so I think eventually that'll fill in. I remember messing with it before. So there you go. Anyway, let's gain it up a little bit and see if it's maybe just not picking up. See how these are nice and solid now? You still got blue. All we did was bump this gain up a tiny bit. Well, it's not working right now. Anyway, also we haven't done our frequency correction, so this is still off a little bit. Let's go way up here and do our frequency correction. The way I find easiest to do is get your local weather station. which in my case is 162,475 out of Melbourne. We're going to go back in here, select FM narrow. And don't ask me why I don't have any sound anymore. That's weird. I broke something. Houston? Okay. So there we go. I reset the squelch down. Okay. Sorry about that.
In the afternoon.
Okay.
Tonight, partly cloudy.
So here is my local weather station, which I don't believe there's any rebroadcast issues on that. Let me get a drink here.
Southwest winds around 5 miles per hour. Thursday.
And it's not bad. But what we're going to want to do is
Chance of afternoon showers.
we're going to want to zoom in on this,
West winds around 5 miles per hour.
because we want to get right to the middle of this frequency. You can see as we zoom in, it looks here that we're right on it.
Chance of rain 20%.
As we zoom in, we're not in the middle. Okay.
Areas of fog after midnight.
Now we're right in the middle of it, and it shows 162.466 megahertz. Well, that's obviously not right.
Friday.
This station, KIW 63 or 64, whatever it is, out of Melbourne, broadcasts on 162.475, and that's not where we are. This is where we're going to need to do frequency correction. So go back over here to input control, and we're going to tune this. This is the easy way to do it. I read something once about tuning it off of your local GSM cell phone. I don't know. This is the way to do it. We're going to go to where we want to be, 475, and you can see it brings us way over here. And to go this way, we need to go up in frequency correction. So we're going to go up, and you can see the slider starts coming over to the left there, getting closer to our actual signal. Whoa, stop. Okay. Now, every time you fire up your system, this may change. It's going to change with temperature, because this has, even that has a temperature control oscillator, blah, blah, blah. This is going to change. So to get right on there, you're going to want to go in and adjust this. You can go in and save it if you want, but it's going to change. This is an easy way to do it. If you got a strong station here that you know what it is, like your weather station, that's the easy way to do it. Okay. So now we're on frequency exactly. I'm going to go back in. I'm going to zoom back out, and you can see we got some other stations off the side here. Those are other weather stations. Daytona, Tampa probably. Okay. And selectivity is pretty good. Okay. Especially when you zoom in. You can see that they're definitely separated and everything works fine. Okay. Alright, so there we go. Now we're tuned in. There's some other stuff that you can adjust here. Make it sound better. If you drag this, this changes your filter shape. Okay, your filter width. Block out noise you got if you had something real close adjacent. Anyway, now we're on spot where we want to be. Okay. If you let this run for an hour, this may change. You may come back here and zoom way in and see that it's slid up or down a little bit. And just readjust. So, another interesting function or feature of this, let's slide on down here into 2 meters. Okay. Readjust our squelch. And down here at 144,390, somewhere abouts, we should have APRS. there it is, APRS. So, it's picking up our local APRS beacon or repeater or whatever at 144.390. You can go in here into Tools, click on AFSK 1200 decoder. It brings up this box, and as long as everything's set up right, we should start getting packets. I'm going to give this a little bit more power there. And it's going to make a fool out of me. It worked last time. There it is. Okay, now we're decoding packets. It takes it a second. So here's APRS packets coming through. So you can decode those, save them, put them into another program, do whatever you want with them. I have not messed with APRS. I always wanted to. I've got enough radios around to do it. I don't know why I don't, but here you go. So now we're decoding APRS. Okay, let's close that out. Let's go up the band here into repeater land. And I'm going to zoom back out. And you can see I'm looking at the entire 2-meter spectrum here almost. Okay. Which is nice. And this is just a cheap one. Some of the more expensive software-defined radio hardware looks at a much wider bandwidth. But yeah, so that's 145 to 147. It's almost the entire thing, okay? And the other advantage to this whole setup is that I can go basically skip-free all the way up through the entire RF spectrum. So even my best scanners don't have all these frequencies, okay? So you do 220. You want to look at some... There's some repeaters up here in 70 centimeter area. Of course, everything's quiet. You know, it's the middle of the day right now. Down here, there's some 432 sideband stuff. There's probably nobody's on right now. Let's go ahead and click upper sideband. Yeah, this is just noise. Anyway, so what you really have here is an all-mode, all-band receiver. A lot of scanners can't do sideband. So this demodulates sideband, upper and lower sideband, which is fantastic. Put a up converter on there and get into the lower, 40 meters, whatever, and do CW, and it's just fantastic. Okay, where else did I want to go? Oh, one more thing I'll show you with this. That's not what I wanted. Airband. If you like listening to airbands, this is an invaluable tool, okay? For a few reasons. Even the best scanner can't go super fast. You could program in every single channel and all that, blah, 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 but this really tells you what's around, okay? So right now we're smack dab, I'm going to go a little bit higher, in the middle of the airband, and what you'll see here, especially with my antenna, which I'm right under a flight path, is every once in a while you get a blip coming up here. Let's go back down. And those are transmissions from planes. I'm going to give myself a little bit more gain here. You never know how far away. There we go. Okay. Now, this is a perfect example of why I like being able to change change the size of these, okay? This is why. Because we can catch this channel. This channel's not transmitting anymore, but here it is. and I can get back onto it. Okay, so you can slow this down too. Okay, but this is nice. I guess you could do peak hold and peak detect. You see that one shows it gives it a little bit of persistence.
124.8.
But I just think this is easy. You can come out here and line up on that channel, and the next time it transmits, you're on it. Okay, so it works great. This makes a good airband scanner because you can see what's around you and how strong the signal is in relation to the others, so you know if that plane is closer or farther away. When I get in the evening, I'm under an approach, even way out here in Apopka. I also have a local airport, and I've got the seaplane base. This is all commercial aviation. I've also got the seaplane base close to me in Lake Apopka, which I get a lot of traffic from there. So this is great for listening to airband. And then knowing that you're on the right frequency, you can kind of go in and look up these frequencies and see what they are in radio reference, whatever. And then you want to program them into a scanner, and you know what you're listening to, which is fantastic. So anyway, that's it for GQRX. It just does everything and it works. Okay, so there's a lot more options. I could spend 2-3 hours getting into it. I'm just not going to. So, but that's it. What is this? Configure. Yeah. So you can really configure this to do a lot of different stuff. And we're running a relatively low sample rate on this computer, but you can get up into the higher ones. And I've run this thing on FM stereo, and it was like audiophile grade sound. You can filter everything out to the mth degree. So that's it. GQRX, I love it. It works great. So that's it, guys. Where are we at here? What are we at, an hour? Yep, an hour. Thanks for sticking with me for an hour. And thanks to Andy. Again, you guys, make sure you show Andy some love. I'm sure he's on QRZ. Some comments here, whatever. Leave a review. Oh, never mind. Don't leave a review. That would just clog your things up. Leave comments down below. I'm pretty sure he's going to see this. He's kind of commented on all my other videos before. And I've got nothing but respect for the amount of time and effort that he put in to putting this together and not charging us for it. This really embodies what ham radio is. Okay, whether an old ham or new ham or a middle-of-the-road ham like me, this allows us to do so much with free software and relatively inexpensive hardware, or using the radio hardware that you already have. It really is just fantastic. I hope he continues to support this project for a long time. It looks like he's getting some downloads, and man, just use it, download it. Even if you only use it in a live USB stick or whatever, I don't know if I'd run it as my everyday distro. Not to say that it's not capable, but just because it's very basic, and he's really designed it specifically for ham radio. You could, though. It's got everything you need. You can surf the web, do your email, stuff like that. For me, it's just not what I want in an everyday distro. I'm using Mint right now. And it's great. So, you guys, thanks for sticking with me for an hour. My next video hopefully is going to be on ham radio and Chrome OS. There's a couple things we can do, believe it or not. Chrome OS is fantastic. I've got a Chromebook and a Chromebox, so I'll show you that. But you guys, download this, check it out, use it, love it. If you have questions, there's support here. You can go in the discussion section and search for topic if you're having a problem. Here's some help. He does respond to this stuff, or if somebody does, it's supported. It's not just download it and you're on your own. There's plenty of guys out here that can help you out. Andy will help you out, and and that's all there is to it. So I'll keep stop babbling now. You guys, thanks for sticking with me. I really like making these videos for you guys, and hopefully with the holidays coming up, you got a free evening, you can sit down and hang out with me for an hour here. I might do some live streams in the future. Maybe Hamcation's coming up here in a month or so. Maybe we'll be in there doing a live stream or something like that. But anyway, you guys, if you haven't already, please subscribe to my channel. I've got some other great stuff coming out, and good things happening around here. If you're supporting me on Patreon, thank you very much. If you're not, please consider giving me $1 or $2, just so I can continue to make great content. Thankfully, all this was free today, but you know, I want to be able to keep up with what's going on currently. This is never going to be a. This is always going to be a Ham Radio on the Cheap channel. For those who just aren't rich or don't have disposable income, or not fortunate enough to have a lot of fancy gear, be able to afford stuff. That's me. I don't. It's a hobby. I'm not retired to where I could do it all the time. So I do this. So you guys make sure you follow me on Twitter at KK4PYN. I put updates on there. You can converse with me and check out what's going on. And I'll leave a link to Patreon down in the discussion. So thank you to all of you. Happy holidays. And thank you to Indy, KB101Q, for providing us with this fantastic piece of software here. And I hope you guys use it and enjoy it. And that's all for me. So stay tuned. There's always more to come. You guys have a great Christmas. Take care. 73.